When you get a job, you need good references. That reference, that boss's wife, that head of the automotive college, that former employer, they're the person that will pull your resume to the top of the heap and get you the job interview. In SEO, it's the same story. Inbound links from other websites, as well as social mentions on sites like Twitter, Google+, and Facebook, help pull your website to the top of Google search. So in this class, we're going to investigate link building and social mentions. Let's get started. Welcome back. Our code for this session is 62. So if you go to jm-seo.org/62 or click in the YouTube description, you'll have the links to this session. So in this session, we're going to look at how links and social mentions influence SEO. So we're looking at our references as part of our analogy between getting a job and succeeding at SEO. So you've got those links. Let's go and let's look at what we're going to learn. Get over to PowerPoint here. Okay, so we are at class number 4 here in our MOOC, and we're explaining how to get to the top of Google searches, so SEO in plain English. We're going to do lots of hands-on step-by-step, and this class is focusing on links, which is when a website, such as a blog or a directory, has a link to your website. So what we're looking for is other websites external to you, talking about you and your company, and creating a link so someone can click from their website to your website. And we're going to talk about why links and social mentions are important. Social mentions are when somebody tweets your link, shares your link on Google+, references your link on a link site like Delicious, something like that. External websites that talk about you on social media are called social mentions. So we're in class number 4. We're understanding links and social mentions, and our whole philosophy is you've got to know knowledge, you've got to know how the game is played, and then we're going to learn action, we're going to learn what to do to implement that knowledge. So what's our agenda? We're going to review a little bit because we're at class number 4. I know people forget. It's a very basic class, but I want people to understand what we're doing. We're going to talk a little bit about theory because you have to know theory, you have to know the rules of the game. Then we'll talk about tactics, about how to build a great link building strategy. We'll talk a little bit about Google+ and why it's really important, and then we'll end up with our to-dos. All right, so let's review. We're sort of at class number 4 here. Let's understand, let's go back to our review, our analogy on getting a job, and let's talk about how this works. So SEO is like getting a job. Succeeding, getting your company to the top of Google is like getting your resume to the top of the heap in a job search. So to get a job, what's the first thing you do? You produce a resume. That's your website. To get a job, you need references. That's the job, the boss's wife. That's the director of the BMW auto school. That's your former employer. Those external people that say, wow, Jason's amazing. Take a look at his resume. Give him the job. Those are links. And then finally, you've got to have that great job interview. That's where you put your foot in the door. They like you. They give you the job. That process is replicated in SEO, and that's what we're learning. Goals are our keywords. We've discussed that. We've got to build our keyword worksheet. We've got to get a good refined keyword list. We looked at on-page, how to build a good website, how to use tag structure to talk to Google. And now we're going to look at links, social mentions, which are the equivalent of references. And in our final class, we're going to talk about the job interview and the landing. All right, so here's our formula. Great resume, aka great website, talking to Google through page tags. Great references, which is the boss's wife, Oprah Winfrey, somebody relevant saying, hey, take a look at your resume. That's the equivalent of links and social mentions. The job interview is the equivalent of the landing, and all that is designed to get you success. All right, so now let's talk a little bit about theory. Links are like votes. This is another analogy to use. You get a link from a website. They say you're the best, wedding cake baker in Plano, Texas. That reference to you is really important to Google and Bing that says this is the website I'm going to show when somebody types in wedding cakes, Plano, Texas. So links are like votes, and they're very specific. Just like we have votes for school board, and we have votes for governor, and we have votes for president. They're different types of votes, and they're relevant in different elections. So let's get started. So 2 web pages competing to get to the top of Google search. Both have the same on-page SEO. They have great title tags, great descriptions, great use of their homepage, all the things we learned in our class on on-page. Who is going to get to the top? Which one is Google going to put at the top of the heap? The answer is the one that has more links. So if website A has 10 links to it, oh, this slide is wrong. That's the fun of doing this online. So this, we're going to change. That should say website A. So website A has 10 links. Website B has 5 links. So therefore, website A is the link. I'm sort of like a Florida voter here, Chad. So the one with the more links wins the election, gets to the top of Google. All right, now what do politicians do in elections, right? They kiss a lot of babies, they shake a lot of hands. So somebody thrusts a baby in front of Mitt Romney during the most recent election, right? He doesn't look at that baby and say, is this a Republican baby? Is this a Florida baby? Is this a baby in Ohio? Somebody thrusts a hand at Mitt Romney. He doesn't go, I don't want to shake your hand because maybe you're not a registered voter, right? They just kiss a lot of babies. They shake a lot of hands. So when you're starting your link building strategy, don't stress the theory. Try to get links in a legitimate way. Ask your mom, ask your friends, ask your business associates. Every time you do a blog post, get a link. Every time you go to a trade, you get a link. Just become link aware. Create a culture of getting links in your company, and don't stress about the theory. In my experience, if you just get links in this way, you will usually win because most of your competitors are doing nothing. So think like a politician, shake a lot of hands, kiss a lot of babies, just get links. Don't even worry about the rest of this presentation. Okay, now let's look a little bit more in a more sophisticated way, right? What did we see in the election, right? It matters where the voters are. Voters in Ohio are worth a lot more than voters in California, right, in a federal election. So there are differences in how voting is done. There are rules. You've got to understand the rules. So in link strategy, quantity, how many people link to you, do a lot of blogs link to you, do a lot of directories link to you. Syntax is important. Does the content talk about your keywords? Do you want to be #1 for Plano, Texas wedding cakes? Are the websites that are talking about you, do they have content that says Plano weddings? And, you know, we just got married in Plano and it was so awesome and we had a great wedding cake. And by the way, check out Jason's wedding cake. That syntax, that context around the link is very important. And then finally, we're going to talk about authority, right? Oprah Winfrey is worth way more than Jason McDonald in terms of a vote. It's not a one-man, one-vote system. Some websites, CNN, New York Times, the Plano newspaper, the National Association of Wedding Cake Bakers is worth more than just an irrelevant blog located in Lord knows where, right? So we got to get the authority. You got to look at those 3 things: quantity, syntax, and authority. So I'm going to pop over here to the links for the class. And let's just talk about some theory. And I'm not going to go into lots of detail because this is just the very basic free class here. I have a link to you about page rank. You can read all this esoteric mumbo jumbo. And I just want to point out this big red guy right here. This is essential, like the New York Times, CNN. All the little websites link up to the big guy. Everybody says, hey, check me out on New York Times. Oh my gosh, did you read this on New York Times? Look at this on New York Times. That gives the New York Times a ton of link energy, a ton of what's called page rank, which is really web authority. And then if some new website comes to town and New York Times says it's cool, it's important, Google pays a lot of attention. So a link from a major website is worth more than a link from a minor website. And that also happens in a keyword community. So I've got a link there. You can read that. A lot of theory there. The basic idea is hierarchy, is who's more important, who's most important. Now, let's go and let's look. There's a couple tricks you can do on Google. You can do link colon and your domain or a competitor. It'll give you some idea about how many links are there. So Progressive has 300, link colon and the domain. Let's put in their competitor, 21st.com. They have 53. So this is a very rough way, and that's one of the reasons why, let's go and do a Google search. I don't know why this guy is set to Bing. Let's go to Google search, and let's do that search for auto insurance quote. Auto insurance quote, and see who shows up here. Progressive, Nationwide, Esurance, Geico, Farmers. Notice how there's no 21st? Why is that? Well, because behind the scenes, 21st does not have good on-page SEO. It does not have good link building. So it's out-competed, and you can just do a quick and dirty analysis, link colon your company, link colon a competitor. Look at this number, and that's a very rough indication of how many votes you have. It's the first very simple tool. Now, second way to do this, go to ahrefs.com. This is a great tool. It's in my top 10. I'm going to sign into my account here if I can remember my password. Okay, and then let's put in www.progressive.com. So this is a tool, lots of stuff we teach in our class on link building, which goes into a lot more detail on how to use these tools to really analyze it. The main thing I want to show you is they calculate the domain authority, 73. Okay, so this link theory, this is like how many people are voting for Progressive. Now we can compare that. To 21st. So let's put in www.21st.com and let's look at their link. So this is a sense of who has more votes, who has more oomph, who has more page rank, who has more authority, right? So let me get rid of my, it'll calm down in a second. I can get my marker here. Okay, so let's see if I can get my marker to cooperate. So you can see here the domain authority for Progressive is 73. It's 64 for 24. So this is a big deal. Those are huge differences in rank. So the first point is just understand page rank, which is a shorthand for web authority. Where do you stand in the hierarchy? Where do other companies stand on the hierarchy? Now let's talk about some link theory. Let's talk about how we get links, how we build links. Okay, so let's talk, before we do that, let's talk about Penguin Update. Penguin Update is a very recent thing from Google to sort of penalize websites, that have over-schemed, over-optimized by too many keyword links, too perfect, or bot links. So Penguin Update, again, this is a very basic class. Penguin Update is where you get penalized for buying links, for doing things a little too crazy. All right, so now let's sort of say, we know the game, we need links, how do we get links? What are some tactics to get other websites to link to you? And remember, it's other websites linking to you. It's not Mitt Romney didn't vote for me, I voted for Mitt Romney. Obama didn't vote for me, I voted for Obama. It's getting other people to link to you that's really, really important. Okay, so what are some tactics here? First and foremost, what I call easy ecosystem partners. Ask everybody you know, everybody you do business with, hey, will you create a link from your website to my website? If you buy from somebody, get a link from them. If you go to a trade show, get a link from them. If the boss does teaches a class at the University of Texas, Dallas, get a link from his page on the UT Dallas website to your company. Easy ecosystem partners. Second tactic we'll look at, get some directory links through Google searches. Third, we'll look at blogging links. 4, we'll look at social mentions, and then we'll talk about link bait. All right, so let's go and let's look at these in action. All right, so link building tactics. So the first one is really simple, is I've got a great tool here. Put your keywords in here, organic food, whatever your keyword is. And this guy here builds all of your searches for you, and then you go look at these directories, these blogs. Hey, will they link to us? How do I get a link, etc. So put your keywords in here. You put your keyword, it builds all the searches. Look at that, directories, lists, favorite links, recommended sites. You click on each one of those, and then you go look, hey, would these people link to us? This is a great job for a summer intern, low paid employee to just go and look for places that might link to you and send out lots of emails. Hey, we're relevant, please link to us. So that's our first tool. Let me clear these other guys up here. Here are these other guys up here. Okay, that's the first tool. Second tool here is just using Google. Go to Google, type in something like top 10 organic baby foods. Look for who's written articles on top 10 best, safest, and then solicit those blog writers to write articles about you. So go to Google, type in lists, top 10 best recommended links. Same idea we were looking at through the tool, and you're trying to get those people to link to you. That's your second tactic, is use Google searches, okay? Third tactic is Google blog search. Google has an entire search engine just devoted to blogs. So let's say you're a Dallas wedding cake maker. Put in, or you're in Plano. Let's put in just to Plano, Texas, and you can find blogs that are on Plano, Texas. Hey, we're a Plano, Texas business. Maybe you could write an article about us. Maybe I can give you a deal on a cake, and in exchange you can review our cakes, something like that. So put your keywords, not necessarily wedding cakes. Maybe it's your geography, and then from there, you can review those guys, wedding cakes, etc., etc. So Google blog search, and I've got the link directly to Google blog search for you. Or you can just go to Google, type in your keyword, wedding cakes, in your keyword search tools, more blogs, and then what else can you do? Search tools here. And you can go, blog posts in the past month on wedding cakes. So the Google blog search is a great way to get link ideas. Let's talk about social mentions. Topsy, it's one of our top 10 tools. Put in wedding cakes. Hit your enter key. Click links. Past 30 days. These are people who have written some content about wedding cakes in the last 30 days and shared popular links. So if they're sharing popular links, you can get great ideas for link building targets through using Topsy. Topsy is also very good for your social mentions. Click Twitter. You can see who's tweeted on wedding cakes. Then you can reach out to somebody on Twitter and say, hey, I see you tweet on wedding cakes. You have 6,000 followers. I've got this new cake idea. Would you like to tweet about me? So a lot of link building, like being a politician, is looking for those voters, soliciting those voters. You've got to persuade those voters. Another tactic, go to Google, type in site:/twitter.com. Type in wedding cakes. So site:/ with no space plus a social media site. Site:/facebook.com. Site:/twitter.com plus your keywords. Find out who has talked about your keywords, who might also link to you. Obviously a competitor won't. But think out of the box. You're doing wedding cakes. Put in here Texas weddings. Who's tweeting on Texas weddings? And you explain some interesting twists and turns that you're doing with the cake industry. So site:/twitter.com, site:/facebook.com. This is a new type of link building called social mentions, and you can use Google, world's best search engine, to find those opportunities. So that's what's called Google site search. Now let's talk a little bit about link bait. Link bait is where you create something unique, interesting, unusual, controversial, that other people will want to link to. So here's Monex. They sell gold. Look at their resources page. Look at this little widget. So if you want to put the real-time price of gold on your website, real-time price of palladium, they have the code right here for you. And in the code, guess what? They have an alt attribute that's keyword heavy. You copy that code onto your website. You have just voted that Monex is a great website to show for live palladium price. So if you go and do a search on Google for live palladium price, which is a type of metal, you're going to find Monex page 1, position, what is that? Position 1 right here. They've got the ad and they have the other. So page 1, position 1 or 2 are Monex, and that's driven through a link bait scheme. So if you can create a BMI calculator, a reverse market calculator, reverse mortgage calculator, any sort of widget That's a great link bait. But you can also do it on crazy things. So people will create infographics. What my mom thinks I do as a barista, they'll post that to their blog. Then the other baristas, ha ha ha, this is funny. My friends think I work at Starbucks. My mom thinks I work at home. Folgers think I'm, whatever. Then they talk about this, ha ha ha, it's funny. They link to it. That infographic becomes link bait. So that's all of those different ideas on link. So link building, there's no simple one-size-fits-all solution. You've got to go through the tactics. And again, we're in the very basic class, the free class. Just get links. That's the most basic thing. In our more advanced class, we go into more advanced tactics to get links. Now let's talk a little bit about Google+. So let's imagine you're in second grade and the new kid comes in and he's kind of a loser. He's kind of a dork, but he has a very wealthy daddy. So he's got a great swimming pool, awesome birthday parties, and he's got an iPhone, an iPad, a Kindle Fire. He's got every gadget imaginable. He has a rich daddy, but he's kind of a dork. That's Google+. So let's look at Google+, and let's talk about just in a second some very basic stuff about Google+ that people would want. So there's the Google+ One button, which is a way to say, hey, this is a cool website. Vote this website. Vote it up on Google. There's Google+ corporate pages. So if your business is at all involved in SEO, either local or non-local, set up a Google+ corporate page. Google+ personal will get your picture to show. So let's look at these guys. Okay, so let's talk about, what are we talking about +1? Let's talk about the +1. Very simple. You can go to our website. At the top of our website, this guy right here, please go +1s. That's a vote that this website is cool. So the +1 button, like the like button on Facebook, tells Google that that's an important website. Now think about that versus the Facebook button. Who is Google going to favor? Google+, its own baby, its own child, or Facebook, its competitor? So I personally feel very strongly that Google+ button will clearly be favored by Google over the Facebook button. So you want to enable both of those. Why don't you play both sides of the coin there? So we have Facebook Like and Google+. You want to enable both of those to get those started. That's your Google+ button, and I have the link for you right in the links on our website, and this is where you get the codes. You go to your website developer and you say, put this code on every one of our pages so people can +1 us on Google. Okay, let's talk about Google+ for business. Not many people are using it, let's be honest. If you're a local business, however, Google Local, which is a subset of Google Places, is very important. Google Local is when somebody goes to Google and they type in local words like pizza. When you type in a local word like pizza, Google is giving back websites based on Google+ reviews. So Google+ is incredibly important to showing up in local search. And that's not just for pizza. It can be something like, you can put in here massage therapist, right? That's going to generate local listings. I've got my location set to New York City, and those are driven by Google+ listings with reviews. So Google+ is super important as a kind of a link building strategy for local businesses, for sure. Regular Google+, not so much. Now let's talk about the final part of Google+. So we've looked at the +1 button, we've looked at the Google+ places, and let's talk about how to get your picture to show. So I have a whole tutorial on how to do this. You can find the link in the link below on the YouTube. Go and look at the links. You'll see the link on our website. How to set this. What does this do? This is so that when somebody does a Google search and they do a search like SEO classes, they will often see your pictures show here. That one doesn't have a picture. Let me try to show one. So you often see pictures show. It's not cooperating today. So let's try to get someone that sits. Let me see here. Let's do WordPress. Occasionally you'll see pictures show on here, and those pictures will be from Google. Let me look on Internet Explorer and see if I can get the pictures up. It's funny, sometimes they don't always show, but they're starting to show. When you start to see those individual pictures, those are being driven by Google. by Google+. So let's put in here, what is a landing page? See if there you go. So there's your pictures. These pictures here are driven by Google+ personal accounts. So by connecting Google+ personal accounts, you can get your picture to show on Google searches. And I have a tutorial on how to do that in the link. So Google+, the reason I put it with link building, it's part of link building. It's Google's network. You want to set it up. It's the new kid on the block. All right, so now we've reviewed what links are, how to get links, why links are important, and social media. Let's talk about our to-do strategy. So you and your team, I've got a nice little worksheet for you. Let's go look at the worksheet for the class. Let me get out of this guy. Let's go over here. So let's look at the worksheet. You got to register to get the worksheet. So I'm going to go and look at our worksheet here for class number 4, off page. So this is just a link building worksheet. Who are your keywords? Who are your easy link targets? Your suppliers, trade shows, charities that you sponsor. Who are reciprocal link targets? Blog targets. Think about reversing engineer competitors. We teach this more in the advanced class. Let's talk about link bait. Let's talk about social mentions. This is a little checklist of, are you setting up links in the appropriate place? And you get that by registering, and that's going to help you. Then we also have a knowledge quiz and an action quiz to help you get started. Are you actually implementing links correctly? So any more questions, please send them by email or put them in the YouTube description. Happy to take questions there. You can get to all the class materials with the code 56. And thank you so much for watching class number 4, which is link building, understanding links, and social mentions.